All right, guys. Today we're here with Josué, a fellow artist from 150. We're like neighbors there. We both have like art studios there. So we're gonna be talking about Josué. No, we're gonna be talking with Josué about Josué. So tell me a little bit about you.
Right. So I'm Guatemalan, um, and I'm saying that because it's important in the art practice,
Yeah.
whatever I make. Um, and I've been living in New York. I first went to study in Texas. I lived in Texas
Oh wow.
and all across the
What
U.S.
part?
basically. San Antonio and
Oh
Austin.
wow. Okay. A little shout out San Antonio.
Thanks. Hello, Texas.
Yes.
And then I moved to New York, wanting to be an artist, but then life happens.
Yeah.
So there's a long hiatus where I didn't do any art for like about 10 years, and I'm just recently back into art
Oh
making.
wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And how do you think like creatively? Creatively? How do you spell that? How do you say that? Creatively. Creatively. Oh,
Creatively.
added that. How do you think creatively that gap, like, did you fully take a break away, like a full break from art, or were you
Yeah.
like doing other things, experimenting with art?
I've always had like, the curiosity, the ideas. Like I went to bed and I woke up with, oh, I want to make this, but I wasn't actually making anything. But I think it sort of allowed me to have so much in my mind because that's how I work. Like my sketches are not on paper. I don't really sketch. It's just like it's in my head,
Yeah.
and then whatever it becomes, it becomes.
Oh, that's cool.
So I do installation sculpture, but I haven't said that before. But and my work is about transcultural displacement, and what that means is when you feel like you don't belong in any place,
Mhm.
so you're always like foreign, and so I'm going back to the idea that I'm Guatemalan, but whenever I go back to Guatemala, I don't really feel like I
Right,
belong anymore
yeah.
because I missed a part of, growing up there.
Mhm.
I missed a big chunk of experiences, but I gained other experiences living in the U.S. and in other places,
Yeah.
and so that informs what my work is about.
Oh, that's amazing. And can you tell us what you're working on right now?
Yeah, I'm working on a straw piece, and I've been using straws for a long time because it's my first sculpture installation sculpture was with drinking straws. And that was important to me because I felt like what I wanted to do was more of a three-dimensional work. I have a degree in painting, but all my work has always been and in a way three-dimensional. Like I've always wanted to incorporate other things into painting and mix coffee with paint, and I wanted to see like my first sculpture was with the straws, and I sort of decided to like explode with creativity with like one material. Just create whatever comes to your mind, like just make a bunch of stuff, and just keep going, like um and so a lot of my art installations have to do with drinking straws, because they initiated with a memory, like me playing with straws, um, and that's why that was the first sculpture installation that I made was with
That
straws.
was, sorry to interrupt, like the first installation sculpture ever you made?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. And did you like,
Yeah, it was very simple.
did you use like to braid the straws as a kid?
Yeah,
Yeah? Yeah, I
so
used to
you-
do like that too, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we do in Latin
Yeah.
America. We
Yeah.
do a bunch of stuff, like crafty stuff with like netting and
Yeah. So it was like subconsciously
yeah,
to you
yeah,
almost.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. And that piece was just very simple. It was just like one straw hooked to the
Yeah.
other.
Oh wow.
And actually, I'm gonna revisit that idea again in
cool.
one of my future installation sculptures. But to your question, I'm making an installation that's made out of a series of sort of like matrix-like straws because they're just connected. I'm melting the end of a straw and just putting them together, and they're making like a matrix, like a ball, with all the straws going out.
That's really interesting.
So there's a bunch of those pieces, and there's going to be a pool out of plexiglass, and I'm gonna fill it up with milk.
Oh wow.
And then this matrix-like pieces are going to activate that space, and they're gonna grow up. They're gonna go up and see what they'll become. I have an idea in my head, but yeah.
Do you write down your ideas, or you just like think of it, then you start, and then you go on?
Yeah. So the if you're talking about the process, it's like I have a concept, but it always kind of changes because the materials dictate some of the creativity. They take apart some, like it's kind of like an editing system because the material. I have an idea, but the material is not going to behave exactly the way that you're thinking, and so you have to edit some of those areas. The material kind of like tells me like what it wants to become. And the curious part is that whenever I finish an installation, the idea in my head disappears because it has become reality.
Oh wow!
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, because it's like I was thinking about this, but now it's like real. So it's not. It doesn't belong in that. Like
it's almost like a memory card. Like
right.
It fills it up, then you take it away and plug it in.
Right.
And I have a question. Like when you first think of your concept and then you start creating your installations, are the installations, the final product, exactly the original concept, or does it change because of the materials?
No, it always there's a few exceptions, but it always kind of changes. Whether it's like color, because I couldn't get like the right color that I wanted it, but then I liked it because the material didn't bend the way I wanted it to bend, because there were size constrictions. So it always changes, and that's what I'm saying. Like the idea, it's always there, and it doesn't go away until like I finish it. So that it becomes the memory or the idea moves from like a concept to like reality.
Physical, I have another question. Once you have a concept and you begin to work on a new project, if that project doesn't go as you planned, do you normally stop that like 100%, or do you stop and revisit, or you just continue?
I don't think I've ever stopped a project because of anything. I probably wasn't as happy with there's some favorites of mine because they like behave and I kind of accomplished what I was set to do. But I always finished, and in the past I've always worked with multiples. So like I'm working with something, and then I like the materials, so I start working with another idea, and they kind of like feed out of each other, like the materiality, the color, the texture. And I did that when I was in school also, like when working with multiple paintings. And then I think you saw some of my pieces, like I've always worked with the idea of numbers. So like I'm always investigating the idea of like versus
like series.
One versus the series, the duality, the contrasting. That's part of.
That was actually my next question, because I think when we met, it was when I curated that show last year, and then I remember it was 9 or 6 paintings, the coffee and resin. Yeah.
I ultimately they became 9.
9.
No,
okay, 9. So tell us a little bit about that, because I remember it was like coffee and resin. So like, what was the meaning behind that? The concept?
Yeah. So the concept is always like the memory. Again, I'm from Guatemala, and we drink coffee all the time,
Yeah.
just out of, coming. You go visit someone and they
Yeah,
offer you
go
the
have
first
coffee,
thing,
yeah, come sit down.
coffee.
Yeah.
And there's coffee everywhere. I remember eating the coffee berries
Mm-hmm.
when I was very young, and sort of that initiated a bunch of like multiple memories, and so I've always wanted to work something with coffee because it's about first is it's something that you sort of enjoy blending the many, right? Like you can't really have a coffee bean.
Yeah.
You need to have a bunch of it. And,
Yeah.
So, and to me, the many means like the common unconscious, like, society, it's always like me against society, but I have so much in common, and all my work is about what I'm living now, right? Like what the contemporary, like, that's what
Yeah.
that the artists like us, we make something with the context of, the period of time where we're living, and who we're interacting with you, and I'm
Yeah.
sure we feed out of each other at some point because of something you said, because I saw you do something.
Yeah.
So it is true, and but I also work out of memories, and the memories mixed with whatever I'm experiencing now. Although I'm revisiting some other memories or some other projects, and then those are self memories, and so it's always like with the idea of the many.
Mm-hmm. Another question: when you say you're revisiting your memories, are you like collectively focusing on a specific thing, or does it just come to you either subconsciously or naturally, and you just think, "Oh my God, that's a great idea"?
Yeah, I think it is subconsciously. I think I'm interested in the idea of memory because there's a bunch of memories that stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the photographic memory, but then those memories stuck with me because of something shocking, or something that I thought it was interesting, or something that I learned that it just spurs something within my train of thought. So that's part of it. And I'm sorry, what was I got lost but like that original question was.
Like when you think of your ideas, are you like focusing on to get an idea or try to remember something specific?
Right.
Or does it just come to you?
No, it's a curious thing about like human nature that we remember some things and we forget others, and then we could probably remember something, but because somebody said so, but like did we really remember?
Yeah.
Like did we really think it happened?
Yeah.
Like did we really remember? Like unless somebody else,
Yeah.
like I'm talking about like family telling you did this. And you used to like this, but do you really remember that? Like, I'm talking about the memories that I sort of experienced that I always keep in the loop. And that's why I'm always revisiting the ideas. I'm always going back to the material first and foremost. I think the material for me is the most important thing, because I just feel like it's I'm remembering something for a reason, and I'm remembering a specific material for a reason, because at the time, it's stuck with me because of its texture, because of its
the smell, or
the smell, the color, I remember things like when I think about color, I think about the dragon fruit and the flavor of tamarind when you first tried it. Things like that. Back home we have a fruit. You're from Latin America, so you might have it, but it's a fruit called manzana rosa. It's apple. In English would be apple rose. I don't think there's a translation, but it really smells and it tastes like a rose. And
really?
Yeah, it's like a seed, and it almost looks like a guava, but there's only one seed in the middle, and it's very delicious.
Dang.
And there's like pink a pink kind and a white kind. But I always remember that fruit because I've had it maybe twice when I was like traveling then Guatemala, and that memory just stuck with me forever. So, and you'll see that some of my installations I also add scent and smell.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And my other question is, next question was, when you do your installations, are you doing like them from start to finish like the day of, or do you kind of work like little by little and you let inspiration come from all angles and use that for your installation? Like, what's your process like?
The installations do take time because there's a process. Like, first I have to decide which idea I'm gonna work on first. Then I have to focus on the material, like see if I have the material and orders, that sort of thing. But I also do that in advance when I'm like almost about to finish one installation, then I start thinking about the other. So it takes at least a month. I try to give myself constraints because otherwise I'll never finish. But yeah, they take from a month to like maybe a couple months. And there's a lot of time spent in the process because I work with different pieces. For example, I made a piece out of coffee stirrers, and they're small, and so I sort of made this. This is the idea behind it. I make sort of like house structures glued with hot glue, and then I put them all together, and then it looked organic, but it also looked like a home. And so all these concepts about home, about the many.
No, I remember
like keep revisiting.
That installation. Yeah. It reminded me like my experience from like the how do you say the viewer. Sorry, because I spoke Portuguese today all day. All right, because I remember that when I was looking at the sculpture as a viewer, the emotion that brought to me was, I don't know, it made me feel like I was in a spider web. And then it reminded me, like, for some reason, like immigration, right? Because I have a lot of friends that like immigrated legally and illegally, and then I just thought like the complex of immigration, and then like all these like structures. So that's like the emotion I got from it. I remember it was like very emotional. So it was very cool because it almost like sucked you in, and there were some parts that were like deep and some parts taken out. So I think like for everybody's different, but I remember that's the emotion I got from it. It was like immigration, and then it's like almost like sucked me in, and I felt like these different emotions and memories that I haven't like thought of or remember for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting with the viewer. Ultimately you like put out the work out there, and it really becomes whatever.
Yeah.
And the viewer is also putting his experiences out there. So like whatever your experience, and then what context. You're put in, the pieces put in, and the year that's put in, like whatever you're thinking about, like what's happening around you when you actually saw and then the color, then the texture. Somebody said that it looked like a map, like
oh wow, that's interesting too.
Like America and Europe to the side, and it's also blue, and by the way, it's blue.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And then, do you ever get like influenced when you put out like an installation and then you talk to people and they give you their input? Do you ever get inspired by that for the next piece?
Not necessarily, but I do. I do get pleasure and when someone is invested enough to actually read into something like you did, like some of the other viewers that have come and like talk to me about it. I don't think I have. I think I have a very clear direction where I'm going, but and the most of what has been said about the work, it's kind of like on point. Like whatever I'm, because it's about light. I use a lot of lighting to,
Yeah.
create, shadows um, because I think aesthetically I want it to be pleasing.
Okay.
And my work generally, it's kind of beautiful. Like that's what it's been described in the past, and I was sort of like discontent a little bit.
Oh really?
Um,
Oh wow.
because I just didn't want the viewer to like not get past the beauty of the work. There's a lot more clues that I put out there that are more philosophical, that are more, conceptual art.
Yeah.
But somebody like Paul Chan, the artist, like told me that we don't really choose our family, like
Yeah.
we're born and then that's the family we're given.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with the our family. Like we don't really choose where we belong. We create whatever we create, and aesthetically, we belong to a certain kind of family. So that's when I let that go.
Yeah. That's very interesting that you said how people said that your installations were beautiful, because what I remember experiencing, it was like visually pleasing, aesthetically wise, and it made me feel welcomed to like kind of like interact with it and not be like not think from your perspective as an artist. It was more like I felt like, oh my gosh, I just certain like, because it was, I remember it was kind of like a spiral. So it was like, there's high parts, low parts, and it just made me feel like, the hardships of when one person goes through immigration, how it can be like good and then bad, and then it was like this whole like conversation in my mind that I was just took off, and I said, oh my, and then I realized, I was like, whoa, I was like, I wonder if this is the intent, like, I wonder what he was feeling, the artist, you. But I remember feeling it was like a very good positive experience, but I did remember, because it was, not only it was beautiful, but it was so intriguing, like it sucked you in. So I think that's like what I like about your sculptures, or sorry, your installations, is that it welcomes you to feel whatever you want to feel, but also whatever you may want them to feel too.
Right. I think, I thank you. I think that's what a successful piece should do, right?
Yeah.
Like when you listen to a really nice song, and then you get sucked into it, and you don't listen to the song anymore. You're just like lost in your thoughts, and then your memories whenever you listen to that song at the first time. So it's sort of like the same thing, like looking at art. For those of you that
exactly
are having a hard time connecting with the piece, but you also have to put a little bit of yourself within the concept and engage in some sort of way, because there's something, somebody created something that has something to say.
And do you strive for your pieces to, let's say, like create conversation? Like, is that something that you enjoy hearing about, or when you're creating like a target that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think I want to create that dialogue in a way, us as artists are that's our language. We're sort of like trying to convey something, and the one of the last, I don't know, you saw it, right? The another straw piece that was kind of a wall.
Oh, with the with the
It's made out of PVC pipes and a bunch of boba straws just stuck together. But you saw the two sides, and you had the visual effect like a honeycomb. But then, I envision, a couple or maybe friends coming to see the piece and experiencing the artwork from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Because there's a division on purpose, and on purpose, and then you sort of connecting. You still hear each other talking about, that's what I envision, and then I purposely took some photographs with two people and on the two viewers on the sides.
Oh, that's really interesting. Because I remember seeing that, the first thing, because I thought the imagery of it was like the fence between America and Mexico, and like the white gaps in between, and how people stand on each side and communicate with each other. That's the first thing I thought.
Interesting.
And then when I started looking more into it, it just reminded me like the cardiovascular, body, and how complex it is, and all the veins. Like that's something else. So then I thought, oh my gosh, maybe This is something with like family and then like immigration and distance. You know, that's where my mind went again. Yeah, but it was very interesting. I liked it.
Definitely. The concept is about like that division and going. I'm just tying it back to the transcultural displacement part of things, where there's sort of like a beautiful divide, but still a divide, and it's about the duality of a bunch of us that have had other experiences outside of our country, and then that we have more in common with each other because we've had different experiences, and we're better able to adapt to other like languages, other cultures, other food than someone that has lived the entire life in a country, right?
Yeah.
It's like harder. You probably visit a place, but you don't really adapt. You try it, you might not like it. But I feel like the third culture kid idea, you are more accepting. There's more empathy.
Yeah.
And in that sense, like and that's just like, again, that's what the work is about, because I live in an era where we're talking about like, maybe you're right, maybe it's the immigration part, it's the empathy, it's the culture war, is the race part, it's all on the news, and and that's what I'm saying, like the work that we make, it's about the times that we live in.
Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Jose, for coming on the podcast today. Would you mind sharing your Instagram and website?
Yeah. The website is www.josue, Josue Morales, Morales, Urbina, Urbina, and the same thing for Instagram is @Josué Morales Urbina.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for dropping by. We'll definitely check out your stuff.
Thank you.
Thank